Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So I don't know about you, but I love the Olympics. I look forward to them every 4 years. I don't know which I like better, the winter or summer. I think they're both just equally as interesting. So I decided to come up with an Olympic book tag. I think this is something that a lot of people can do just because Olympics are universal. So I decided I'm all decked out in my Team Canada gear. I got my maple leaf, province flags in Canada here. So I'm super excited. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question is, where are you from? I live in the States, but I'm actually from Canada, so obviously you can see I'm all decked out in my Canada gear. It's always, people ask me, like, what team do you root for? I think I will always root for Canada, no matter what. If Canada's playing the U.S., I root for Canada. However, if the U.S. is playing, I always kind of root for them too. But Canada is my home. So the next question is, Misty, May-Treanor, and Kerry Walsh-Jennings are the only team in Olympic history to win 3 gold medals 3 times in a row and have only lost 1 set. Name a trilogy that kept getting better and better for you. I think for this one I would have to go with the Kiss of Deception trilogy by Mary E. Pearson. The series just kept getting better and better. There's so much character development and so much kind of twists and turns, and I just love it. This is probably one of my probably my all-time favorite trilogy ever. So the next question is, Katie Ledecky was the youngest athlete in the 2012 Olympics, being only 15 years old. Name a book or a book series that was very special to you when you were younger. I think for this one I would have to go with The Spiderwick Chronicles by Tony Ledecky and Holly Black. I read these, I think, when I was in grade 3 and grade 4, and they were just really special to me. I always kind of keep these close to my heart because, I don't know, I didn't read Harry Potter until I got into high school, so I didn't really have that. So this was kind of like that book that you read when you're younger that's really special. Men's Hockey Finals, Vancouver 2010 Olympic Games. Name a book that had your heart racing from start to finish. I think for this one I had to go with Die Again by Tess Gerritsen. This is the most recent novel within the Roseline Isle series, and it's basically like an And Then There Were None premise, but on an African safari. And I don't know what it was, but they talk about how there's basically a lone survivor left who went on a safari with this group, and she's a lone survivor, so she kind of has to survive in the jungle and all that. So it was just crazy. I don't know, it just had my heart racing. There was a lot of twists and turns in this novel, and it was just, I was on the edge of my seat. Rosie MacLenna, 2012 Olympic champion in the individual trampoline event. Name a character who is small but mighty. I think for this one I would have to go with Alina in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. In the beginning it kind of talks about how she's very skinny, she never really eats. And I think once she kind of starts getting back to normal, I think she ends up being very, very powerful, and I really like that because she all her life has been tiny, but kind of releasing this power inside of her has made her kind of healthy again. I think she proves herself to a lot of people and surprises a lot of people. So I think this is just really important to kind of show her character development and growth. Girl power. Sarah, Emily Hughes, and the Dufour-Lapointe sisters have all competed in the Olympics. Name a book that had a strong sister or female relationship. And fun fact, Sarah and Emily Hughes are actually my mom's cousins, so they are kind of family, which is kind of neat because there's 2 Olympians in the family. But for this one, I think for sisters, I would have to go with The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This shows such kind of how sisters' relationships change and all that. I think it's just really, I think this is the best book I've read last year. It was amazing, and it just kind of shows how the power of a sister relationship and how it changes given different circumstances and different personalities. And I think that's really important to show because I think it's realistic to kind of how sister relationships are and how we can get mad at each other and all that stuff. So I really like this. If you haven't read this already, I highly recommend you do. It's a World War II historical fiction novel, and I think this is something everyone needs to read. So the Paralympics. Name a book where a character had to overcome obstacles. I think for this one I would have to go with All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. One of the main characters of this book is a girl who is blind, and she kind of has to overcome that throughout the whole war, just kind of having to deal with that not only during a war but for the rest of her life. And I just think she's very resilient, and she's just very, she uses her disability doesn't come a disability to her anymore, and I think that's important to show that for what we may see as a disability is not something for that person. And I think that's important to show, and I think this book kind of brings to light how that can be kind of beneficial to us and kind of how we grow and all that. So the Winter Olympics. Name a book that takes place in winter, and obviously for this one I would have to include The Winter People. This takes place in kind of a remote town in Vermont during the winter time, and just how it was described and kind of the eerie kind of foresty feeling during winter, and just kind of like kind of the stillness of it. I just automatically made me think of this. It's obviously this one. This was kind of like a thriller novel with kind of paranormal in it, and it was just really good. If you kind of like this, I highly recommend you check this out. It was creepy. So the Summer Olympics. Name a book that takes place in the summer, and for this one I would go with Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. I think for this one I think of when they were kind of thrown into the arena in this tropical summery environment. That's what I think of. I don't know, this is the first book that came to mind with that. Just because of the arena takes place like a majority of the book, so I went with this one. So next question is teamwork. Name a book that had a strong team in it. And for this one I would go with Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine. So basically this is a historical fiction novel about two girls during World War II, and basically the main purpose of this book is the friendship between these two girls. I think one of the main quotes in it, we were a great team, and I think that's just really the whole part of this book. And I think, like, when I think of teamwork, I think of this novel. Hard work and dedication. Name a book that had a character who demonstrated severe perseverance and determination. For this one, I think the main characters in the Harry Potter series, just because everything that they were going through, they kind of had to grow up really quickly. And I think just when I think of that, I think of how Harry had to persevere his whole life and how Ron and Hermione were there with him, and I just kind of think of hard work and how basically the fate of the wizarding world was rested on their shoulders. Ancient Greeks. Who was the author that got you started into reading? So I think for this one I first would have to do Tess Gerritsen. Like, I always was an avid reader when I was younger, but it wasn't until that I read this series that I kind of became obsessive with reading. And I think that's just because everything that was going on with my life when I read these series, like, I don't know, like, this was my escape, and I just thought I really enjoyed this. These books are just so near and dear to my heart, and I think it's kind of special to have a book that means that much to you. Olympic Podium. What are the top 3 books that you have read this year? And so to start, I think the top 3 books that I read this year have to be Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine, Stolen Songbird by Danielle L. Jensen, and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. So the next question is international travel. Name a book that takes place in a foreign place. So this one I kind of will do like the series as a whole, and it's the Gallagher Girls series by Allie Carter. And these books is basically about a bunch of spies, and they do a lot of traveling throughout, like, once you get further on in the series. And I just really love it. It kind of takes you different places and just kind of all of that. Like, it's just so interesting, and I just enjoy it so much. This is probably one of my favorite series that I read when I was like in middle school or early high school. One World. The Olympics bring the world together and unite us as one. Name a book/series that you feel has had a great impact on the world. And so obviously I think everyone can relate to this, and Harry Potter, I think what's great about this series is that it shows you that no matter where you're from, like, these universal themes of friendship and love can relate to everyone. And I think this movie and the whole series as a whole, like the movies, the books, it just means so much to people because everyone can relate to it. And I think it's important that we kind of have books and like media that everyone can relate to, and I think that's just especially important. Gold medalists. Name your favorite books of all time. So for this one I have 2, and it will obviously be The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna and Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine. These books just mean so much to me, and they're just amazing. Pan Am Games. Name an unknown book that deserves more recognition. And I think this book reminds me of kind of Gone Girl and the suspense that you kind of feel in there. And I would have to say it would be Harvest by Tess Gerritsen. This is her first medical thriller, and I was amazed. Like, this book was so good. I think this is kind of like my favorite kind of thriller of all time. I think it's so good, and I think a lot of people will really like this. If you've liked Gone Girl, I didn't really like The Girl on the Train, but like you like those suspenseful kind of books, then I highly recommend you check this book out. It was so good. It was amazing. Next question is Tears of Joy and Tears of Sorrow. What is a book that made you cry? So for this one, I would have to go with The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult, and this is basically a World War II novel that kind of takes place within our time and kind of goes back in time to kind of a person who was Jewish, and she was kind of in a concentration camp, and her story, and the way it was written, it made you feel like it was real. It's basically the storytelling of being in the concentration camp reminded me a lot of What We See in Night by Elie Wiesel, and it just, I don't know, it just took you, like, it's, even though it's fiction, you know probably similar things happened like this, and it, I don't know, it's kind of puts everything in perspective. And I think this, if you like historical fiction, World War II, are kind of drawn to that, then I highly recommend you check this out. It is really good. It is very sad, but I think this is something everyone needs to read as well. And the last question is the next generation. Who do you tag? I tag anyone that wants to do this. I think this is kind of like a good tag that applies to so many people throughout the world, and I feel like this is just kind of cute, like a good thing that kind of unites us all. So anyone that wants to do this, so yeah, let me know if you're going to do this tag in the comments below, and I will love to check out your videos. So yeah, let me know, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!